I have a react. So I actually, admittedly, I watched a good bit of this video on my own. This is mapping every extinct animal from North America. And I thought this was an incredibly cool video. Basically, I thought that he was going to be really broad and just kind of talk about, like, I don't know, very general extinct species and stuff like that, like maybe large things that people care about, like ivory-billed woodpecker or whatever. But I was pleasantly surprised when I watched the video. He actually talked about every extinct animal from North America. He goes into all different sorts of groups and he gets all the specifics down, and I got to learn a lot about fish, which is really cool. So I thought we would watch the fish section together and talk about the things, because I know a decent amount more than these books might know about some of these species, and I have some cool anecdotes about a lot of them. So let's learn about all of the fish that have gone extinct in North America in recent times.
The next chapter of this book we're concerned with is the extinct fishes of North America. Fish aren't really what I think of when I imagine animals living within a continent. I guess what I was forgetting is the fact that this landmass hosts a series of Great Lakes, amounting to one of the largest freshwater ecosystems anywhere in the world.
Yes, but I don't think any of the species that have gone extinct are from the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes, all in all, are not that diverse. Like, tiny streams coming off of the side of mountains in Tennessee are 10 times as diverse as the Great Lakes are in terms of fish. So when you think of our biological resources and you think of fish in the United States, you shouldn't be thinking of large water bodies. Ironically, the smaller the water body tends to be the more diverse because things are separate.
It was here that the longjaw cisco, the blackfin cisco...
Oh, I stand corrected. There have been fish that gone extinct from the Great Lakes. I forgot about cisco. Cisco are a very interesting fish. I've never seen a cisco in person myself. I want to someday. There's a lot of different species of cisco all across the world. They're like if you Google the word fish, they just look like what the word fish looks like if you Google it. And they're really well adapted to living in these giant lake and cold environments. So they were in the Great Lakes. They're in a lot of more northern lakes in Canada. I believe they're in Russia in certain forms. There's one in Alaska called a sheetfish. Do they taste good? I don't know.
The deep water cisco, the short-nosed cisco, and blue pike once swam.
Blue pike is an interesting one. I've always wondered, is blue pike is a crazy story. I don't know if you guys know this. It's like related to walleye, related to sauger and walleye. And it was like abundant. It was like a bluish walleye that was abundant in, I think, the Great Lakes and the Northeast as a whole, and now doesn't exist anymore. They're just gone. They're fully extinct from existence. But they were around not that long ago. I'd have to look up exactly when. Yeah, listed as an endangered species in 1967, was declared extinct in 1983. Bro, my grandmother was nearly alive for this thing being described as a species, becoming endangered, and going extinct in one lifetime. Like, this is it's a really cool fish that was like largely commercially important and was really abundant, which is crazy to think about, the fact that we made it go extinct. It reminds me of the, what's the pigeon that was incredibly abundant, or maybe it was a dove that was just, is it carrier pigeon that was stupidly abundant and somehow we made it go extinct? Passenger pigeon. Yeah, passenger pigeon. That was one of the most abundant birds in the world, and we made it go extinct. Did they die to overfishing? I believe so, yeah. So it's very sad. These blue walleyes should still be around now.
But as American and Canadian colonists settled along these shores, they polluted it, introduced new parasites like the sea lamprey, and what started as subsistence fishing turned into a commercial fishing industry, causing many fish populations.
Interesting to think that sea lamprey might have had a case here. Sea lamprey are like debatably native along the East Coast as they come up from the ocean, but they've been introduced to the Great Lakes, and they live now fully freshwater lifestyles, and those are like the parasitic guys that suck onto the side of fish. Interesting to think they might have had a part in it.
To collapse. In 1957, as many as 26 million pounds of blue pike alone were being hauled from these waters every.
That's ridiculous. In the 60s, what is that, 60 years ago? There are millions of pounds of this fish being caught. Now there is zero. The fish no longer exists in the world and we can't get it back. Millions of pounds 60 years ago. A normal lifespan ago, there were millions of pounds, and now there's none.
Though by 1959, just 2 years later, that had dropped to 79,000 pounds, and 5 years after that, only 200 pounds were caught. Soon enough, none could even be found, and by 1983, the blue pike was declared extinct. The story is essentially the same for all the different ciscos that once lived here as well. Beyond the Great Lakes, however, the Mississippi River was also heavily industrialized, and pollution combined with overfishing led to the disappearance of the hair-lip sucker. However, water resource.
Is that a moxostoma or catastomus? I don't know, but I think we have lost a lot more suckers than we know about. Because keep in mind, for something to be declared an extinct species, we either need to have already defined it as a species and then it goes extinct, or we need to have a specimen that later we find out it went extinct and we have a specimen that we can define it as a species, right? So that's a very difficult range to be in, right? Because science is fairly new, especially like taxonomy and ecology, and describing species well and describing lots of species, not just based on what they look like, but on other things, is a very new thing, right? Like the blue pike was only described in what, the 1920s? So it only had a period of like 40 years from being made a species to becoming endangered. So things like the suckers, I feel like we've lost a lot more than we know about. Long before we even knew the difference between like the, 20 species of moxostoma sucker that are all across the United States, I bet there were probably 40 that went extinct before we started studying them and their genetics and really looking into the morphology.
The rivers that have suffered the greatest levels of disturbance are those that run through the more arid regions of the continent, as humans' demand for water put far greater strains on these water supplies. One such example is northern Mexico, where the Rio Grande has lost 3 species of shiners, plus numerous subspecies.
Sad.
The Cerro Potosi Spring System lost 3 species of pupfish, and the Paras.
Sad. Pupfish are like, I will say, I mean, although pupfish are going extinct right now at a rapid rate because of us, pupfish are destined to go extinct. I suppose everything in the end of time is destined to go extinct, but pupfish are really a weird product of the current world ecosystem, that these things can exist, that they can just survive in these like tiny desert extreme environment pools. But in reality, pupfish, like as soon as that dries up or something about the ecosystem change, they're dead. Are those fish endemic to those areas? Yeah. I think these 3 species of pupfish only lived in this one like pool system. Basically, if you went to this one pool system, you could catch 3 pupfish that existed nowhere else in the world. Yeah, it's crazy.
Valley lost the Paras caracoden, the Paras pupfish, and the stumped tooth minnow, all in large part due to irrigation projects.
I'm glad the Devil's Hole pupfish still lives. Devil's Hole pupfish get the most publicity, but Devil's Hole pupfish are not the only one in the United States. They just get the most publicity. If you look at pupfishes specifically, like California to mid-Texas, we have a bunch. The Amargosa pupfish, Death Valley pupfish, Desert pupfish, Sonata pupfish, Comanche Springs pupfish, Devil's Hole, Red River, Pecos, White Sands, Owens, Conchos, Lawn Springs, and Carbonara pupfish. These are only like existing in one pool. Like if I go to this specific one, this exists in one pool in Texas. In Devil's River, the Conchos pupfish is in one little pool, this species. Like this, we give a lot of publicity to the Devil's Hole pupfish, but there's a bunch of species of pupfish that are just one tiny little spot.
Draining of Lake Texcoco was catastrophic for everything living within it, especially the fish endemic to its waters, which included 3 undescribed species of Mexican dace. The nearby Lake Chalco was also
That's what I mean. We drained a lake for I say we, you know, Mexico, whatever, however many years ago, drained a lake for agriculture before these three species ever even had the chance to be known to science.
drained, causing the plateau chub and Indo-Raic chub to lose their only homes as well. The same happened
5 species
to the Lago de Magdalena, causing another fish species, the opal alatoca, to disappear.
6 fish species gone. 6 fish species gone from existence that probably existed in my grandmother's lifetime, if not in my great-grandmother's lifetime, due to draining water sources to do agriculture.
Here. Besides that, the Alberca silverside disappeared from the Rio Lerma.
That's a crazy unique one. A silverside. You can argue about like losing dace or shiners or pupfish, but that's a very unique silverside.
Durango shiner disappeared from the Rio Tunal. The same is true of the Ameca shiner from the Rio Ameca. The graceful Priapella is no longer found in the Rio Mozorongo, and the least silverside is gone from La Mencinta Spring. This pattern holds true in the United States as well, as it's within the already water-stressed Great Basin where the Paranagat spine dace disappeared from Paranagat Lake.
That's so sad. It's one thing to think about Mexico, and it's like, for me, it's like it's a country that's ecology is outside of my control. Hi, Squiggles. It's a country that's ecology is outside of my control, and I mean, it's not like the United States is within my control, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm an American ecologist. I have no... It's easy to think of the US as like ecologically not like in terms of preservation superior, like doing more than other countries in terms of preserving native species. And then you've got something that's this cool, a spine dace. We had a spine dace living in a, like, I think one lake in the US, and it went extinct.
Las Vegas dace disappeared from...
There was a Las Vegas dace. There was a dace where we built fucking Las Vegas, where you go and gamble and get married overnight now.
From the Las Vegas Creek, the Grass Valley spectacled dace disappeared from Callahan Creek.
That's another sad one. There was another Rhynictes. If you guys probably near you have like an eastern or western black-nosed dace, there was another Rhynictes way out on the west coast that went extinct.
And the Ash Meadows poolfish disappeared from the Ash Meadows pools.
And there's a pupfish that already went extinct.
Nearby in Utah Lake, both the June sucker and the Utah Lake sculpin are no longer found as well.
Heard about that one. There's right next to each other, there's the Bear Lake sculpin and the Utah sculpin that are endemic to that specific lake. Sculpin that are only in that specific lake. And I believe the Bear Lake sculpin's still there, but the Utah one is not. Sucker looks so cool. I'm telling you, we've lost a lot more suckers than we know.
Then there are loads of individual cases, such as the Snake River sucker from Wyoming, the Miller Lake lamprey in Oregon, the thick-tailed chub in California's Central Valley, or the Clear Lake splittail. Arizona lost the Monkey Spring pupfish, while in Texas the Amistad gambusia disappeared from Goodenough Spring. The San Marcos River lost its gambusia as well, and the same happened to the white line top minnow in Spring Creek, Alabama.
This is a crazy one. I talked with my friend Jared when we were in Alabama. This happened because the fish was discovered in a spring, okay? But it was on private property. And this guy decided that he wanted to develop the property. And because there were no basically protections on the fish or the native ecosystem in general at the time, the guy just developed his property and destroyed the spring. And so the fish is only the place in the entire world that fish exists. The only place is just gone.
The ski-out.
Fuck that guy. I don't know. Can you really blame the person? Do you think that he thought that this little killifish was worthwhile when he could, build a life for himself by expanding, using his land better? You can't, I think blaming the individual is useless, right? Like, it's up to the government to put in laws that protect our animals. You can't expect the individual person to care about every individual organism and do the conservation effort, especially at the detriment of their own life and their own well-being. It's up to a greater, larger organism, larger body to do that. he still single-handedly extincted a fish. That's true. That is probably one of the few cases in existence where one person caused a species to go extinct single-handedly, and not indirectly. Not like, you know, this person led our country to increase fishing efforts on the blue pike and thus the blue pike went extinct. This is just one dude who caused it to go extinct. This is like if I went to that one cave in Alabama where there's that one cave crayfish and just like dumped some oil in the pool that they live in. It's just like you single-handedly caused it.
Colorado Mad Tom only lived within the waters of one tributary to the Ohio River.
Yeah. I originally, this is a fun fact, one of my first ever videos on YouTube was going to be searching for the Scioto Mad Tom. The Scioto Mad Tom was declared extinct not that long ago in, you know, this tributary of the Ohio River, and they still search for it occasionally. I think they've given up more recently, but they still did seining. That was one of my first videos, was I was going to fly to Ohio and work with an ichthyology researcher there to look for the Scioto Mad Tom. Because imagine if I found an extinct species. Imagine the YouTube video that I would have gotten, the cred, the content, but it didn't end up working out.
The Maryland darter hasn't been...
That's a crazy one. I'm working on a fish conspiracy theories iceberg, and let me just say that the Maryland darter is at the heart of a lot of conspiracy theories when it comes to fish. It's hard to explain, and I don't want to give too much information because I will be making that video, but the Maryland darter, I think the Maryland darter is the closest extinct species to me, the closest species to go extinct to New Jersey, and it's very interesting.
Been found since 1988. Finally, the silver trout.
Yeah, it was found in 1988. So the Maryland darter was found not that long ago. There is still maybe a little bit of hope that the Maryland darter is around.
Once lived in only 2 ponds in New Hampshire, but introduced trout species have since edged them out here. In total, that's 43 species of fish to have disappeared from North American waters, mostly within just the last century.
That's crazy. So yeah, that was a great video. Thank you, Atlas Pro. That video as a whole is extremely entertaining. He goes over every animal from North America that went extinct. I assume when he says animal, he's being a little bit loose with the definition and not including like micro inverts and such. But really cool video, really cool mapping. It is sad to think about all the species that we have lost over time. Whoa.